Hello and welcome to our second tutorial of how to build your own calculator, and in this case we are building our BBC calculator in VB.NET programming language, and in this tutorial we are going to create a user interface for our calculator. Just like what we went through, now this is our form for our calculator, and we need to build a calculator that is similar or close to this. So we need to get it in our mind, and we figure out how we are going to place these buttons to look exactly just like this calculator I built before. So without wasting time, let's start right away. We see that our calculator needs buttons. So just like we talked about last tutorial, we go to toolbox, then we go to button, and when we select the button, we draw our very first button. And remember, when you're programming, you have to be artistic and you have to have this user impression. What would a user want to do? It would be bad if you create a calculator and it has a button that is close to impossible for a client to press on. So in this case, you create a button that is pressable, and then we position it properly. And what we are going to do now, we need to format this button to have a number on it that will be maybe number 1, and we go to our properties panel. Under properties panel, we look for the property of text, the text on the button, yes, which is button 1. So in this case we call it button 1. Yes, so after we press enter, we see that our number has changed. But just like I said, still it is not artistic. The 1 is close to invisible, it's not seen easily by a client. So we look for our property of formatting the 1 so that it looks more visible. In this case, we need to increase the font size, so we go to the property of font. We look for a bigger font. Let's say we make it bold, and we're going to give it at least about 28, and we see how this is going to look like. Yeah, that looks close, big enough. So we position it properly where we want. You need to be a little bit artistic. Now, when it so happen that you're going to have so many buttons that look alike, there's another trick you can use. You press and hold the control button on your keyboard, and you drag the button. What this does, it duplicates that button and it creates another button. Yes, so we created, that is another button. We control hold, we drag, that is another button that will be for 3, and this will be our additional button. So you need to have the flowchart of your program. You need to have it in your mind, what you're trying to design, so that you design something that you have planned for already. In this case, we continue dragging these buttons just like that, just like that, just like that, and just like that. Now let me pause now so that I finish it, so that the video is not heavy. It doesn't take so much time, but you do it like that. Hold control and you drag just like that. Let me pause. Yes, so now after drawing our buttons, we need, because it will be pointless for a user to use a calculator when they are it will be pointless for a user to run a calculator when they can't see what they are inputting or what they are outputting of the program. So in this case, what we do, while the project is unable to set the party involved and disconnected from the clients. Okay, so now we need to insert, and we put in a text box where the user will be able to view or see to see the number they have inputted. So we go, in this case, we're going to use a control or a tool called the text box. So we select it and we drag it where we want our control or our text box to be. But in this case, we need to format it. Usually 0, the calculators have a default number. In this case, we go to our text property and put in 0, and it will appear on our screen. But usually they also have a text align. We look for the property of text align, and we shall call it the right alignment. In this case, so that our text is right aligned, just like you see there. And then it's a little bit unprofessional for our box to be that small, so we still go back to our font and we look, so that to make it a little bit similar, we make it bigger. It was about 28, so we click OK, and this is our toolbox ready to go. So we just make it a little bit bigger and wider so it looks good. That is good to go. Now we put a few labels, and in this case we shall go to toolbox, then we go to label. You look for the label command or the label control, and after selecting it, you drag it where you want your label to be. In this case, we go to our text property in the text panel, and we call our label the BBC or one calculator, or we can just name it the BBC one calculator. Yep, something like that. So we have our label, or our label created, and then we need to format it now. So we go to our font property and we go to increase on our label, we make it bold, and then we can choose to maybe give it another font or that, and we decide maybe to give it around 28 or 22 for that matter, and we have it there. But then we need to center align our text so that it looks a little bit more nice and visible for someone who is looking for the work. So we have here our BBC calculator. I put it right around there. We can choose to format it and make it look any other way we want. So we add another label, and we go to label, and we shall put it here, and we shall call the label FX, maybe scientific calc. Yeah, that is good to go. It looks a little bit good, so you place it here in the middle. You take off some time and you make sure that your app looks good. Okay, so we go to our format font site, and we format it to bold. We go back to the monotype Cashivo and make it about 16. So we press OK, and we format it right about there. Yeah, that looks good. So in the next tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how we can change all these values to their respective numbers, and how we can make sure that they actually operate. Because right now, what we have when we run our projects, why am I getting these errors? Let me see. Okay, 0 errors. I think, oh yeah, I've seen why I'm getting the error. This has been executed. So in this case, we shall be fixing that, and we see how we can run our project to make sure that when you click actually on the button, they are displayed on our text box on the screen. Thank you for watching. We shall stay tuned in the next